For the past 3 or so years at this point, one of the biggest and most consistent memes in the anime community has been the Potential Man meme that was directed towards Megumi all the way back in 2023. You know, this meme is so popular, or has become so popular, that it's honestly taken on a life of its own. It's attached itself to the character of Megumi in pretty much every conceivable way, because anytime the word if or potential is used for something, but the Potential Man meme isn't that far behind. And it's even used to slander characters from other stories or just mediums in general, or even sometimes real life people, which is crazy because it's a meme so good that whether you're a fan or not, you can't fight back. You know, that Potential Man meme on drop, bro, Megumi fans were going through it because, one, there's some truth to the meme, but also it was just such a well done meme, bro. Like, how do you fight back against that? It's kind of hard, but that's what I'm gonna do exactly in today's video. Because one of the reasons people have such a problem with Megumi is because he's hyped up by the story to have the ability to, you know, possibly rival Gojo if he perfected his technique. And there's the magic word, if. But in my opinion, that was never the purpose or point of his character. So with the news of his possible death at the end of Majulo, they dropped that. Yeah, I don't know if you know that. And his last meaningful fight in the series coming up this week. Wow. I'm so sorry to you, Megumi fans. I thought now would be as good a time as any to discuss Megumi. So with all the preamble out the way, I do want to say thank you guys so much for the support that you've been showing. Please continue to show it. I really appreciate it. Again, read all the comments. Love you guys. Keep subbing, keep liking, all that stuff. Now, let's get it done. The biggest thing that hurt Megumi's character is the expectations of what comes with being a main character in a shonen story, which is that if you are said to be able to get to a certain level, you are not only expected to achieve that, but even surpass it when the time comes. Look at examples like Naruto, Ichigo, and Goku. You know, all of them, when it's all said and done, finished at the top of their verse in their respective stories, excluding the continuations, of course, you know, but those examples are important because they all had rivals or deuterogonists, which is where I think Megumi falls. He's a deuteragonist that finished the story with just a little bit under them. But the thing is that they, you know, mastered the powers that they were given. The thing with those stories, however, is that they're supposed to be the ideal scenario. The hero and his friends are supposed to win with as little tragedy as possible. Jujutsu Kaisen has literally never been that story. The most lighthearted we have ever been is that first season, and if you look back at it, it's still pretty dark. But the thing is, Gojo is there. He's the person striving for the ideal world, investing in the next generation who are his students, believing them to be the ones to achieve it and protecting them along the way. They literally had to get Gojo out of the story for the story to actually progress. But JJK is a story about reality and how much it will beat down on you regardless of how positive you are. It's not supposed to be this hero's journey. The sorcerers themselves aren't even made out to be heroes. They're literally referred to at one point during the story as con men. You know, we aren't watching people save the day. We're watching people uphold a system that they themselves have become jaded with the older they grow. This is seen time and time again with Gojo and Nanami, and even more recently with Itadori in Majulo. But this is the main reason that Nanami outright left the world of Jujutsu, and Gojo at any point in time is only really happy interacting with his students and his friends. You know, he hates the way that the Jujutsu world is ran, which is why he ended up killing the higher ups. And while this is a theme, you know, it's a thing that's brought up throughout the course of the story, the only people who really want to make changes to the Jujutsu society outside of Gojo and his students, you know, they want to do it for selfish reasons. Hakari, as much as I love him, only agreed to help Megumi, Yuta, and the rest of them because he wanted to legalize his betting ring so that he could profit off of sorcerers. Kenjaku, who main villain, so doesn't have the best intentions at all, only wanted to do it because it would have been interesting. He was bored. That's the only reason Kenjaku wants to do anything that he's doing. But this, I believe, is as close to reality as I think the story can get, you know, considering that they have to fight invisible monsters with invisible powers and stuff like that. But overall, I want people to understand that Jujutsu Kaisen isn't a fairy tale story. It has real world commentary on our own world and society, oftentimes critiquing it. You know, cursed spirits being born from negative emotions reflect the mental health issues of people not only in Japan, but just globally speaking. Not to mention the human trafficking thing that began to occur when the entire world found out about cursed energy as a power source. And dude, if you don't think that would have happened, I don't know what to tell you, because they literally traffic people now, and we're not a power source. It's just for activities. But now I want to discuss the point of what I believe Megumi's character is and how he may be one of the most realistic depictions of depression in modern anime. Megumi from the very beginning never really had an ideal life. His mother died shortly after his birth, due to his birth, if I'm not mistaken, and his father abandoned him not long after this, and he was even lined up to be sold off by said father to the clan that abused said father, making him the way that he was. But the only person that Megumi had in his life left was his older sister, or older stepsister, Sumiki Fushiguro, where deep down I genuinely believe this was his only reason for living. He wanted to protect her and ensure that she had a peaceful life, and it makes sense. She raised him, and she was only 2 years older than him, so she gave up a lot of her life to ensure that Megumi turned out the way that he was. And apparently Gojo did pay their bills, but he was pretty much hands off in terms of, again, Megumi's upbringing outside of jujutsu based activities like taking him on missions and things like that. So when Sumiki became involved in the Culling Games against her will, as most people are because of Kenjaku, his motivation became not just stopping the games, but primarily finding a way to get Sumiki out of the game. And Megumi has always been talented. Gojo himself stated this, which is high praise. He had the ability to not only grow as fast, but surpass Yuji. And I need you to kind of take that into account, that Jujutsu Kaisen happens over the course of 6 months. The entire story is it's less than a year. Yuji grows from not even knowing how to control cursed energy to being up there. And Megumi has the potential to surpass that. But and again, as stated by Gojo, he has the potential to even surpass him if he perfected his technique. But people love to make the joke that Megumi has always been suicidal since the beginning of the story, because retroactively speaking, myself included, there is some truth to it, because I genuinely don't think he resorts to summoning Maharaga off rip. First episode, by the way. But 6 different times without being the least bit suicidal. But towards the end of the Culling Games, when he found out that Sumiki wasn't just an awakened sorcerer, which honestly would have been the best case scenario, but a reincarnated sorcerer, was honestly the beginning of the end for Megumi, in my opinion, because quite literally in that same chapter, his body's taken over by Sukuna, like I think 2 pages or 3 pages later. And then shortly after, he has to watch as Sukuna is not only approached by Yorozu, hoping to start a relationship with him, in Sumiki's body. And I don't know how many of you have siblings, but that is literally a horror scenario. And on top of that, he had to, which is arguably the worst part, watch as Sukuna kills her and Sumiki with Megumi's technique. Sukuna used Maharaga to kill Yorozu in Sumiki's body. And as if this wasn't bad enough, he had to then go on to watch as Sukuna decimated not only the person who saved him and was his teacher, honestly, but the people who actually loved and cared for him, all with his own body and technique. Megumi from the very beginning was never particularly passionate about being a sorcerer. It was just something he did. Megumi, in my opinion, represents the average person, and as much as I hate to use this word, but the potential that the average person have, in all of us. The thing is, however, that not all of us act on this potential, which a lot of the world is complacent with what they have, which, don't get me wrong, there's nothing inherently wrong about this. For me and myself personally, it's not how I want to live my life, because I'm doing this because I'm acting on my potential. And I do believe if you have the potential and the gift to do something, that you should act on it. Don't live life like Megumi did. I'll just put that out there right now. But you can't force a person to want more for themselves if they themselves are happy where they are, which is why I think Gege had Sukuna take over Megumi's body. Sukuna is someone with the inherent talent and work ethic to do what Megumi never would. He is the pinnacle of Jujutsu, and watching Sukuna master the 10 Shadows was the only time at any point throughout the story that we would see somebody master the 10 Shadows technique. along with the fact that he did need a feasible way for Gojo to lose to Sukuna, because I will die on this hill. If it's not for the 10 Shadows technique and Maharaga adapting to Gojo's Infinity, Sukuna is not winning that fight. We saw the domain clash, we saw the domain battle. They were pretty even, and if you can't touch them, you can't cut them. That's Sukuna's whole thing. But while I myself am not a fan of the things Gege has done with the characters in the JJK universe, I do think Megumi is pretty well done in terms of sticking to who he is at the beginning of the story. You know, I would have loved to definitely see him grow as a sorcerer for sure, and I would have loved to see all 3 of the Jutsu High Year 1 students go on adventures together and overcome a world that wanted nothing more than to crush them. But by the end of the story, we do kind of get it. In both JJK and Majulo, we got the happy ending for everyone as much as possible, but I feel people would have less of a problem if we spent more time with these characters. The main thing that hurt both JJK and Megumi is just honestly the length of the story. We needed more time with these characters to watch them grow and to watch them go through trials and tribulations. But that is the video, and you know, as usual, I do hope you guys enjoyed. That's why I put these out. I really hope you guys enjoyed every time. Please continue subbing down below, you know, liking, and comment below if you think I'm wrong and just off base in general. You just think that Megumi is just a straight up ball of potential that went nowhere in terms of the story, you know, outside of his own powers and the things that he went through. And, you know, tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. But I do love you guys, and I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.